Of Francis of Assisi, few pages have come down to us, and not even all of them written by his own hand. The scholars who have sifted through the oldest manuscripts, first among them that Codex 380 of the Communal Library of Assisi, which goes back to the middle of the 1200s, recognize as authentic only about 30 texts: rules, letters, praises, one poem. It is a small body of work, and it holds a fact that surprises anyone who imagines Francis as a learned man. Of this whole inheritance, only 2 sheets truly came out from his own hand. All the rest he dictated, and someone else wrote in his place. The 2 surviving autographs can still be seen. One is kept at Assisi in the Basilica, and it is a little piece of parchment of goatskin, large only as half a sheet of a notebook. On one side are the praises of God the Most High, and on the other a blessing for Brother Leo, with the sign of the cross in the shape of the Tau drawn by his own pen. He wrote it on the mountain of La Verna in the September of 1224, and it was Leo himself who noted, in red ink, above the lines of the master, when and why that sheet had come to be. The second autograph is at Spoleto in the cathedral, and it is a note of 19 lines, again addressed to Leo, written to calm a friar in crisis over poverty and the rule. In those lines, Francis tells him, in substance, to do in the way that seems to him best to please God, and to do it with his blessing. It is the voice of a father, not of a lawgiver. That same voice returns identical in his most demanding texts, the 2 rules. The first, of 1221, the scholars call the unbulled rule, because no pope confirmed it with a solemn document. It is 23 chapters still warm with the first experience, full of passages of the gospel quoted whole, written as a man speaks who is telling his own life rather than as a jurist writes. The second rule, that of 1223, approved by Honorius III, is instead brief, polished, reduced to 12 chapters. Many of the gospel quotations have vanished, the language has turned juridical, and to its drafting there contributed the Cardinal Ugolino. To set the 2 texts side by side is the most direct way to touch with one's hand the tension of those years, the ideal that tries to stay itself while the institution orders it and contains it. The barest document, however, is the Testament, dictated in the last months of his life, in 1226. In it, Francis sets down in writing where everything had begun, and he names one thing only, the meeting with the lepers, that which had seemed to him bitter, and which the Lord had changed into sweetness. He commends absolute respect for the priests and for the Eucharist. He orders that the friars work with their hands, and at the end he sets down an almost desperate request, that no one add or take away anything from his words, that the text be observed simply, without commentary. He knew he was speaking to an order that was growing and that would have wished to interpret him. 4 years after his death, Pope Gregory IX, with an official document, declared that that testament was not binding upon the friars. History proved him wrong on the very point he cared for most, and this is not legend. It is written in the charters. Beside these greater texts there are the letters, and it is here that one hears best what he thought. He wrote to the lay faithful, men and women who remained in the world, a kind of simple rule of life. He wrote to the rulers of the peoples to remind them that above every power there was God, and to invite them to have the people pray in the evening. He wrote to the whole order that it should treat with reverence the body of Christ and even the written words of God. And he wrote to a minister who wished to give up his charge a sentence that is worth the whole of his thought, to forgive the brother even if he had sinned 1,000 times. To understand these writings to the bottom, one must keep in mind who it was that signed them. Francis was a layman. He was never ordained a priest, only a deacon, and it was precisely as a deacon, the sources tell us, that he chanted the gospel in the night of Grexio. His Latin was halting, learned from the liturgy and from the Bible rather than at school, so much so that an English chronicler of the time branded it as wrong Latin. And yet that simplicity was not only a limit, it was a choice. He called himself a sinner, not a master. He spoke in the name of the we of the brotherhood, and he wanted the words of God to remain bare, without glosses. His thought is not a system. It is a way of being in the world, made of lowliness, of poverty, of respect for every creature and for every holy thing. There remained one last page to write, the one he could not dictate. In the next chapter, the last, we shall follow him to the night of the Porzian Cola and beyond, to that of him which has remained for us.